So I'm going to go ahead and just start introductions. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Jenn Sharp, and I have Ruin Shoe Entertaining, and I also have Sharing Kitchens Live. So here I get to host these amazing people like Rachel and books from Substack, and I'm so thrilled. So today we're going to let Rachel tell us about what she's going to be making with us today. And then we're going to hop back over and do a little cocktail, which is Betty Williams Ginger Lemon Drop. Super excited. I've been wanting to make this thing since she started posting it.
Sounds so good.
So, yeah. Are you making the cocktail, Rachel?
I'm not making the cocktail. I know. I wish I had the stuff to make the cocktail. It was kind of a crazy day, but I'm going to make it tonight. I'm going to watch you do it. And then this evening we're making the cocktail.
Yes. Okay. Sounds great. Okay, good deal. And so I am going to introduce Rachel CIORDAS here, who has Next Level Gluten Free. And I love her recipes and just how varied they are. Thank you, honey. So I'd like you to just tell us a little bit about yours.
Thank you. Yes, Rachel CIORDAS. Thank you. You got my name right. Rhymes with DoorDash, kind of a difficult one. I write Next Level Gluten Free. I develop recipes, gluten-free recipes, lots of baking recipes, and also homey comfort dinner kind of recipes. I have been a cooking teacher, teaching cooking classes to the public and also at cooking schools, hospitals, places like that for over 15 years. But I have a son who has celiac disease. So in our house, we started making all these lovely gluten-free recipes. First, we started making non-lovely gluten-free recipes. And then we finally worked into lovely gluten-free recipes. So
well,
there's a learning curve. Yes.
So I want to say hey to Rebecca. I see Rebecca is on, and Christine. Rebecca, so glad y'all are here. Christine's coming to the retreat, which I'm so thrilled.
Exciting. Me too. I'm thrilled.
Yes. And
great.
So is Rebecca.
Hey, so we'll all be together.
Yay. Okay. So I am going to be making the ginger lemon drop. If you're ready for me to do cocktail, I'll do that.
Let's see it.
Flip back over. Now, is there anything that you wanted to do right now that would need to sit for a minute while I'm making the cocktail, or did you just want to?
I've got the swap out ready to go. I've got the Julia Child 2 things going.
Good for you.
We're ready for you.
Yeah, I did the stock this morning. I was like, there's no way this is all operating right? in one thing. So I'm going to flip this down a little bit for y'all guys so you can see the actual. Oh, I said I was going to do that, but I had this rigged a little differently this time. And it wanted to turn over. So just give me 2 seconds. I had all this figured out beforehand, but it never is really like that once you go to it.
That's how it goes.
Okay. Can y'all see this? Okay. All right. Can y'all see that?
I can.
Can you see
Yes, it looks great.
All right. So we are going to put a little ice in our shaker here. And we have, let's see, we're doing 1 ounce of fresh lemon juice. Now, the recipe calls for triple sec, but I have Cointreau. So we're going to do a little 1/2 ounce of Cointreau.
Those are both orange, right? So each one. Yeah.
Exactly. And I won't tell y'all the story about triple sec the very first time I got drunk in college. We just won't talk about that. And the reason that I don't even have it in my house. Because I'd never drank in my entire life and decided to do bullfrogs in competition, which is some kind of shot or whatever. Anyway, another story for another day. Okay. And then we're doing, let's see, simple syrup, 1 ounce of simple syrup. Now this is the ginger simple syrup, right, from Betty Williams' recipe, and I'm going to tell you, it is amazing.
That I can almost smell it through the screen. I love that. That's like such a great idea.
I am doing a Tito's, which is a gluten-free vodka today. In this, which I always do Tito's anyway, but just to make the comment, we are going gluten-free here.
Perfect.
All righty. A little bit more ice. Did I get everything in there? Let's see. We've got the lemon juice, Cointreau, vodka, simple syrup, and we're going to shake this guy up. But I'm going to do my little sugar rim first. So give me 1 second.
I like it.
Okay, I chill my glass first.
Oh, it's so pretty.
I'm going to tell you that I am such an insane person that even after I do the sugar rim, okay, so we're getting this into this here, I put it back in the freezer while I'm shaking.
Oh.
Right.
It's
then
very cold.
Shake, 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 shake it like a
I think it might be fun also if you had a little ginger to mix that in with the sugar on the rim. I don't know.
Ooh,
yeah.
Very good idea.
Get a little extra hit.
Yeah, because you could just take that can be kind of spicy, but you could just put a little like right around the top with the raw ginger because I did peel the ginger and make the syrup. So you could do that. Yeah, totally. That would be great.
I think I like the spice. I like it. I like it a little hot.
Yeah, I do too. My husband is funny about ginger, but I love it.
Mhm.
Y'all get to hear all my husband's idiosyncrasies. I'm always talking about how he doesn't like this or he doesn't like that. He's actually a lovely man. Okay.
Does he appreciate that? How does he feel about it?
He's a great guy. We wouldn't be married for nearly 40 years. All right. So here we go.
Look at that.
Yes.
That is beautiful.
Harnish there.
Now I'm super jealous and I wish I had one.
I totally understand. We are dating. Okay, guys. So one sip.
Look at that.
Oh my God. I'm going to tell y'all a little secret. I didn't make this beforehand because I wanted to taste it on. I thought it was amazing, and Betty is amazing. Let's see, Rebecca, yum, making that tonight for sure. Oh my gosh, this is absolutely fabulous. Okay, so let's move back to Rach and let her make those chicken and noodles.
You know, I'll tell you what, when I saw the lineup and saw what cocktail you picked, I thought, you should all save these recipes together for when you're feeling a little under the weather because the ginger and then chicken noodle, you know what I mean? Like it's all comfort. So this is your comfort day today, I think. Definitely.
I think you are right. I was noticing that Betty had she had restacked the video where she and I did our live, and she had made these amazing tacos which were delicious. And I had made a completely incongruent drink. This heavy, sweet drink with it. And I looked at that replay today and I was like, I should have made something else. I was not in the season appropriately.
Balance. It was balance, you know, you get the heavy and the light. Maybe that worked perfectly.
You had a light dinner, you had to have a kind of really sweet drink, right?
Exactly.
So what do you have for us today?
I have chicken and noodles, which I call it chicken and noodles because it's basically a soup, but it's a little bit thicker, right? More on the stewy side because we get a lot of flour from the noodles and the outside of the noodles, so it kind of thickens up your dish at the end. But if you like things more soupy, you know, you can always add more broth. So there's that. So we're starting off with that. And I am going to start off by showing you, you know, the chicken and vegetable part. And then afterwards, we're going to get to the homemade noodles, which I feel like are the star of the show. So
like I said to you, I made the stock earlier, but I'm going to be coming into the part where you're getting to the shredding the chicken and whatever.
Perfect.
Before that, I'm drinking.
Perfect. Okay. That seems like you planned this well. So I just have some chicken thighs here. These are bone in, skin on, because I'm going to take this out and shred this later. And chicken thighs are super forgiving. So I love them for a long cooked dish like this, or just because they're so forgiving, it's very difficult to overcook a chicken thigh. So it's great for people who are not feeling so confident about that. And I'm just putting them in my big soup pot. I put them skin side down because they'll kind of start to, cook a little bit, but it doesn't really matter because they're going to start floating around and that will be great. And now I'm going to add, it's very simple dish. I want this to be so comforting, so simple. Just chuck it all in. Even if you're feeling great, wonderful. If you're feeling a little bit iffy, you can still get this
Yeah.
done. So I have vegetables here. I have an onion. I'm using a yellow onion, and I just keep a bowl on the side of all of my scraps, like the outside of the onion, not if it's
Yeah.
dirty. I get rid of the dirt, but if it's just the outside couple of layers, and I hold on to all of those to make stock out of them because otherwise I just throw them away, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah,
might as
that's it.
well.
I have a compost bucket like right under my island, and I end up tossing all of that. I mean, we throw so much away of all the little extras and the ends and the what, at least they're
It's
going to some kind of good use. Stock is another way. I keep chicken carcasses too, and then I don't go back and boil them. I'm so bad.
that's the thing, you got to remember you have them.
Yeah,
I
they're
used
in
to
the
be,
freezer, and I'm like, what day I'm gonna make
I,
stock out of that? But I
I
don't.
know.
I go buy fresh.
It is terrible, but it's true. I put a Ziploc bag of chicken bones and a Ziploc bag of all these odds and ends of vegetables and the ends of herbs, like, parsley stems and whatnot. But you have to remember to go back and get them. But, sometimes I just I throw them all in the crock pot and put
Oh,
it on the lowest setting because it's kind of, hard for me to remember to do it on a day when I can hang around and babysit it a little bit. So
that's a
then
great idea. And
at least that.
instant pots. I think I
Yes.
gave my crock pot away because I have an instant pot, but they're not the same thing. A
Right.
slow cook and an instant pot, a pressure cooker is not the same thing.
That
And
is
I've
true.
discovered that like with beans, you know. I will make beans in my instant pot and it's all great and wonderful, but it's not the same thing as when I cook them on the stove for 4 hours or I cook them in a crock pot all day, you know?
Yeah, it's true. Slightly different, the slow cook and the fast cook, and the Instant Pot does hold in, nothing evaporates. So you get
Yeah.
a little more water in the end.
Yeah. Very true.
So I have just chopped up this onion, and I hope, every time I chop an onion in a class or live like this, somebody somewhere, I mean, I know we have so many pro cooks here, but seriously, somebody somewhere is like, I've been doing it wrong forever. I never knew how to chop an onion. So I hope the thing that everybody noticed the most was that I held this tin like this to keep my fingers out of the way, like a claw, right? So that I don't run into my fingers.
Yeah.
And I know, like I said, I know we have so many pros because you've got all the great cooks
But you
on
know what I
Substack
realized
watching.
is that I've been cooking for a very long time because I am pretty much almost old. And I never knew what the proper way was to do an onion. I do an onion the way I have migrated to doing it all my years, and I've gotten better and better at doing it, but I'm probably not Julia Child. If I watched remember in the movie where Gwen, Meryl Streep is like chopping the bazillions of onions that are
Yes.
on the table, and I remember reading that in Julia Child's book, and I didn't notice how she cut them off. But I would imagine there's multiple ways to make that happen. Keeping your fingers safe is a good thing.
It is. And it's something round and you're tasked with making it into something square. So it's kind of a ridiculous journey that we go on to get the onion cooked anyway. So it's
Yeah.
definitely got different ways. So I just like to leave my carrots in coins because I like to see them at the end. But my husband feels completely differently. He's really into soup. He's from Romania, and Romanians are soup crazy. And he wants teeny tiny carrots. So he breaks out
Mhm.
a box grater and grates the carrots on it because he
Really?
wants itty bitty shreds.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
always an option too if you like tiny carrots.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they
I
add
guess
so much
it makes kind
sweetness.
of a texture.
Yeah.
So,
If you like a little bit of a smaller,
yeah.
softer texture on your
Hey,
soup.
Scott. Hey, Vanessa. Welcome. Thanks all for joining us today. Rachel is over there making her amazing homemade chicken soup and noodles.
And I've got celery, which I'm so pro celery. I'm trying to make celery cool, which is like on the less cool end of vegetables, but I don't know why. It has lots of flavor. And I
Oh,
always leave, if you have leaves, they're so good. They taste
yes,
like extra celery.
it is
And I
so
love that.
true. And
It is true.
how long did I cut off the end with the knob and
Oh,
then the leaves? And then one day I was like, why am I cutting this off? I mean, they're not poison or anything. And you're right.
no,
Yeah,
they're
you're right.
so great. And actually, when I get one that has a whole lot of leaves on it, it's my favorite. I pull them up and I kind of chop them and use them as a garnish, sort of like parsley or something like that. And you
Yeah.
just get a little, fresh hit
Oh,
at
yeah,
the
I
end.
love using, celery for cakes because just the, well, parsley and celery, but just like
Yeah.
the leaves are so pretty, and so when you
Yes.
just need a little bit of a leaf that's gonna act as a tree or whatever,
Yes.
I
Oh, that's
love using vegetable. So Julie Dove says
yeah.
celery is cool. I love the leaves.
Perfect.
And Rebecca thinks she could possibly be Romanian because of the soup connection. So we'll have to see.
Hey, there you go. All
Stay
right. That's perfect. Oh my goodness. Yes. I mean, my husband would eat soup in the middle of summer on July 4th when it's 105. He would be out there with a bowl of soup for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yes.
My son's girlfriend is like that. They're in Greece right now, but she could eat soup every single meal. It just cracks me up. Christine says pesto with celery leaves is amazing. Now that's something I
Ooh.
haven't tried.
I love that. I've made it with carrot leaves, but I've never made it with celery leaves. That is a really fun idea. It would taste
Yeah,
so herbal.
yes,
Oh, that's
yes.
great.
Christine, you're gonna have to make that at the retreat.
Yeah, right? I want to taste that. Okay, so I have a couple of cloves of garlic. The garlic is so good right now. Throughout the year, you get to the end of the last year's garlic and it's kind of shrivelly and it's all sprouted, but now we've
Yeah.
got like the fat, wonderful garlic. And I like to grate mine on a microplane grater. You cannot get the whole garlic because you'll grate your fingers off, but
Right.
it's really, really fine. And the finer you get it, the more garlic flavor you get. And I am
Yeah.
pro garlic.
Great idea.
So yeah, like
And Betty Williams is here with us. So thank you, Betty,
hello.
because I thought you were on earlier and I had to say that this is amazing. Oh, amazing. I had not tried. I waited to try it on live and it's delicious.
So we get her real reaction, her
Yeah.
authentic.
You'll have to
Yes.
watch it all over again, Betty, just so you can see my reaction when I drank the first sip.
That's so great. And I'm gonna check all the vegetables into the pot. Everybody into the pool. And then I'm just gonna season this before I add the stock. I have a couple of bay leaves here. These are dried bay leaves. I used to have a little bay bush inside my house, but I live in Kansas, so even near the window, it got too cold for it. It's very sad.
Oh,
But that's a lovely flavor.
I've always wanted one, but
Salt.
I don't know. I don't know if they really grow in the hot heat, do they? I mean, I'm in Louisiana. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be the moisture. I feel like it needs to be fairly dry to be
Oh,
outside and
I don't
survive.
really know of many of my friends or people here who say I have a bay tree, so maybe not.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was lovely. It did grow to about as tall as I mean, I'm not a very tall person. I'm about 5 foot tall, but it grew to about that height.
Oh,
And
God.
then one winter it got very cold, and even in the house, it didn't make it. So there was
Oh,
bay, salt. I have some thyme. I have dried thyme in there. My thyme outside. I don't know. It was looking weird, so I didn't do that. But I do have some fresh rosemary. And the leaves are really little, so I'm just going to throw it in and then I'm going to fish out the stem later. But you could always chop that puppy up.
and Andres was saying celery and carrots, mix it with tuna fish and homemade mayo. That sounds
Ooh,
delicious.
yeah, that sounds really good. The carrots are a little sweet and the celery's a little
Yeah,
herbal. Yeah, that
I'm
sounds
loving that.
perfect. So let's see. Oh, here's my spoon. Just going to give these a little zhuzh
So good
around.
to see y'all that joined us later. I think all of you know me and Rachel, but I just want to say I'm so thankful that she's on with us today, and she is um, doing her chicken soup with noodles, and her y'all all know this, I know, but her publication is Next Level Gluten Free. And Cheryl O'Connell has joined us. Hey, Cheryl.
Hello.
Yeah. So if y'all have any questions, I am monitoring the comments because Rachel's a little far away from her phone. So
I
just send us a comment question, and I'm happy to let her know.
feel like my eyesight used to be better. I used to be able to see more of those tiny things,
Oh
and
yeah,
I cannot anymore.
that's called AGE on my
Yeah,
end.
right.
But you're not the same age as me, but still. Look, guys, I don't know if y'all noticed, I cut all my hair off and I am
I
letting
like
the
it.
gray take over. I decided to stop fighting it.
I
So,
love it.
all you ladies of a
Great.
certain age.
I think I got my first gray hair when I was 21. I think it's just I was a
Yeah,
early to the party.
yeah. Scott says, "Is that a margarita you're drinking?" No, Scott. This is Betty Williams' ginger lemon drop. So this is what we made at the beginning of the live, and the recipe is in the link or the post for this. Yeah,
We'll
and it's
have to
also on Betty's website. So her publication. It is amazing.
So I just put in some cracked
Thank you.
pepper. I like some pepper in here, but you can, dial up and down the spiciness as you like. And I put homemade chicken stock. You could definitely use stock from a box, but I had that, trash and all the things from
Yeah,
my
yeah,
from my
sure.
freezer. So threw them in, and when you cook the chicken in the stock, you get, the double chicken. It really
Yeah.
enhances that flavor.
And that's what
So,
I did. I started early because I like to. You had mentioned doing chicken broth, but I just wanted to have. I like to have all of that flavor together, and so I started early this morning.
you're on
Early
it.
and
Perfect.
got yeah. Well, it's almost exactly how I make my dumplings, except I do a little bit different on the dumpling itself, but it's the
Right.
same premise, right? So
Same
I just
premise.
had
Yes,
made that
definitely.
early. So yeah.
That's perfect.
And
That
thank y'all
way,
for all your nice comments about my lady of a certain age hair. I
I
appreciate you all. I love you, every single one. You
don't know
are
what you're talking.
just
I had that haircut a few years ago, and it was my favorite haircut ever.
really
Yes,
well. I
I
figured
loved it.
I told my hairdresser, I said, I've been for the year and a half, I've been saying I'm cutting it super short so I can just let the gray grow. And she kept saying, please don't, not this time. Let's just go one more time. And I'm like, you
That's so
kidding
funny.
me? I went a couple months ago and I'm like, I'm not
I'm
covering it short.
deciding. I love it. It's so freeing, and then you don't have to spend forever, getting
And all
everything
that. Huh?
dry.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm
It,
just gonna
it,
swap
it's
this out with the one on my stove. Here we
yeah, no worries. Look at that amazing chopping block, guys. Do you see that behind Rachel's um island? She thinks maybe from a barbecue shop or a butcher shop. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Tree stump.
I'm in Kansas City, and this has been here as long as anybody in my neighborhood can remember. I went over and talked to some of the people who were here when the neighborhood was built, and they said, "Oh no, that's been there forever. Nobody knows where it came from." But it's a big hunk of tree, and then on the back side of it, the part that they put towards the wall, it is really used. Like you can see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chopping marks. And I don't think any home cook could have chopped that much. I
Right.
think it must have come out of a butcher
Oh,
shop or
oh my
barbecue because
gosh,
we're in
it's
Kansas
got
City.
to. Yeah, it has
All
to.
the
That's amazing.
burn ends or whatnot went on there.
I love it.
Goodness. So, okay, so here's the one that I had simmering from before. And I'm just going to pull out. If you put the chicken in there, it's still pretty warm. So I'm going to have to pull it out and then let it cool just for a minute. I don't burn my fingers off. Although I am a little more heat resistant than your average bear.
Hey, Trevor. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm clearing my space, Rachel, so I can get on to noodles.
Perfect. Yeah, noodles are next, right? That's the star of the show, I think. So You can let this cool a little bit. I just pull off the skin and then shred it up with 2 forks. Or honestly, I find the easiest thing for me is just to throw on some gloves and do it with my hands because,
Yes. Yes.
yes, it's just so simple. Oh, that glove did not want to cooperate. Here we go, buddy. I wear these in cooking classes, and I always call them like the murderer gloves because they're black and there's
Yeah.
something about that. There we go. So I'm going to take off all the skin. These were pretty trimmed when I bought them, so there's not an excessive amount. And if you wanted to lower, the oiliness of the dish in the end, you could always take those off before you cook it. But it adds a lot of nice flavor and a nice mouthfeel, so I leave it in. Gonna get rid of it right there. And then if you have gloves on, it's super easy just to pull it off of the bones.
I don't think so. Claudia is asking, are they special gloves? Are they kind with the nubs on them, or they're just latex gloves?
These are they're not latex, they're what, polyurethane or something?
They're cooking gloves, right?
They're cooking
Oh,
gloves. Yeah,
yeah.
they're not. So because I have pretty heat resistant fingers. If you want to, and I would highly suggest this, you can just let this cool off a little bit more before you shred it. Or, I find that those gloves that are meant for washing dishes that are heavier duty give you a lot more heat protection than the kind of gloves that I'm wearing. And they go up farther on your arm, so that's another option.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. And because
I'm
this
not
is
doing this with gloves. I am doing this barehanded.
You are just a rebel. You probably need
Believe me,
cookie dough
my
too.
husband and my kids do not care.
It's your kitchen, it's your house, and there's no people coming. So it'll be great.
I'm one of those people that makes a spaghetti and then 3 days later I use what's left over to make lasagna. And my husband, it drives him crazy because he's always like, we're gonna get some kind of poisoning. I'm like, baby, we've been together for 40 years. Have I ever poisoned you? Not once. Not once.
Well, you
Okay.
can tell him you get 72 hours.
Chef Billy Parisi wears that kind. Okay.
Oh, perfect. I'm cooler than I thought. Okay, so I just toss through there. If there's anything that needs to be shredded up smaller, just think about what's going to go on your spoon. That's really what I think about when I'm shredding it up.
Good point.
Yeah. How big of a piece of chicken do you want on that spoon? That's what we're thinking about. And it will break down a little bit more once it's back in the broth. But you're basically setting the size here for what you're gonna
Tell
have.
me, do you pull out all of your herbs before you like you do stock and you put the herbs and everything in. Do you pull the herbs back out or you leave them in?
So if I am making stock and I'm using herb stems or whole big bunches of herbs, I'm just throwing a big parsley in here or something, then I pull that out because it's just
Yeah.
so big. But
Sure.
if
Yeah.
I've used small
Tough.
minced herbs or dried herbs, something like that, I go ahead and leave them in. That's good flavor.
Yes.
They rehydrate.
I think sometimes we just get too hygienic in our cooking. Like we want things to, and I'm guilty of this too. I want everything to be precise and pretty. And but when I just throwing stuff together for my family and whatnot, I always tend towards flavor rather than
It's true.
like
It's the grandma method, right?
yeah.
The grandmas would leave it in. And there are the bay leaves also, which you can pull out at the
Yeah.
end, but we always play like who gets the bay leaf, they have to do the dishes. So
Oh,
that's an option as well. It can be like, who's the lucky one? Oh, not it.
I love it. I love
It
it.
helps to be the one who ladles up the soup or the stew or whatever. So
Yeah.
you can make sure you don't get the bay leaf. That's a little strategy for you.
Are you talking about cheating, Rachel? Are you?
Oh, there might be a little cheating.
I'm gonna
Then
wash
the
my hands.
children don't mind. Yes, perfect. I'm gonna give mine a rinse. My sink right here off camera. Here we go. My things back up. Whoop. Here, I'm back. And I'll just get out my things to make the noodles. And I'm making some gluten-free handmade noodles today. I feel like this is really the star of this dish, and also you can make a lot of these and freeze them for another day. You can use them for a different dish that you would use egg noodles in. You know, people have come back and told me, I grew up eating stroganoff with homemade egg noodles, or I grew up eating some other, a dish with cabbage and sausage and things like that. So you can definitely use these for all those purposes. This is just a great place to start with where
Yeah,
to put your noodle. Yeah,
up a bit. I'll be right.
yeah, no problem. So, simple recipe with the noodles. We just start with the gluten-free flour, eggs, and salt. I mean, that's basically the basic ingredients in the dish. But you can flavor this up if you want to add dried herbs, say up to a teaspoon of that. You could also press in some fresh herbs if you want to give it some color. You can always use spices if you have, say, smoked paprika or something like that. You can definitely flavor this different ways, but in its bare form, 3 ingredients, and that's it. So, and possibly water if it's a little dry. So, I'm just showing everybody what flour I am using today. I'm using a gluten-free 1-to-1 flour blend. It's really easy to find. You've got the same one there. The King Arthur measure for measure. It says 1-to-1 substitute for wheat flour. Kind of not true, but they're trying. So all
Right.
these, blends, right? They're getting close.
Well, you know
So,
what? I was saying to you when we were chatting, I remember the day my daughter was gluten. She was affected by gluten, and so we did a lot of gluten-free food when she was in high school. And there was the day when you had it's a quarter cup of rice flour, and it's a this, and you had to do that
right.
yourself because they didn't have these. So I'm thankful for any of them when
I
I
am
have.
too. I'm so grateful. It has improved so much, even in the last 10 years or so that I've been doing this. Like, it is really night and day.
Yeah.
Definitely an ease. But, so I'm going to make the wet part first and then pour it into the dry ingredients. So if there is anybody, I write a gluten-free newsletter and these are gluten-free recipes, but I just want to point out that the ratio that I am using is specific to gluten-free flour. I'm making 4 eggs and I do have a little bit of water on the side just in case it's dry. If you decide to make this recipe and you use regular wheat flour, you would use a different ratio and you need to only add 3 eggs. So FYI, if that's what you're going to do, just a little hint for you. So I have eggs, 4 of them, giving them a crack into the smaller bowl. And I have a shell, of course, because you must have a shell when you crack eggs on camera in front of people live. There is no way out of it. You will always have a shell. There you go. And I also have the salt from the recipe. I put that in with the eggs. It starts to dissolve and it mixes in with all the noodles pretty well. And then I just use a regular fork and give them a little poke in the eye. I don't know if you guys can see this, but the rest of my stuff is bubbling and souping and getting nice and hot and steamy. So that's what we want it to do. I just whisk these up with a little fork just so we don't have any spots that are all yolk or all white. So there we go. Over here in a different bowl, I think it's easier to mix up I could have used that little container I had the eggs in to begin with, but I think it's a little easier to whisk up these eggs and then add them into the flour than
Okay.
trying to add them in just,
Okay. Wait, I
whole.
missed something. What is
You
that
missed
now?
something. So I've got the eggs whisked up with the salt in one bowl. I have another bowl out and I'm going to add my flour.
Oh, okay. I thought
Yep.
I didn't know what that was. Okay, got
Nope. Yep.
I have
So
my flour
this is
bowl.
for the noodles. So I've got the flour. I'm going to add it in here. And I'm just going to point out it's a real hard sell for people, but I do weigh my gluten-free flour as opposed to putting in a cup measure. And the reason is all those brands are really not the same. And some of them weigh a lot and some of them don't weigh much at all. So
No,
if you have trouble,
I agree. And I used to not use the scale, but I've gotten really accustomed to it with doing a lot of cooking with for people in other parts of the world, and they
It's
always use
true. It
so.
just opens up a world of recipes for you. If you get a little kitchen scale, and then you can cook so many recipes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I love that. I'm able to see all of our also, cup measures in different countries. Even if it says 1 cup, they're different. 1 cup in England is different than 1 cup in the United States, is different than a cup in Australia.
Interesting.
So
That
sometimes you're like, "Oh, we're really off. Oops, how'd that
right.
happen?"
And you know what? You can do that with some things in cooking, not as much in baking.
It's
In
true.
baking, 1 tablespoon of flour makes a difference. So
It's
if you are
true.
1 tablespoon of flour over, you can change a recipe and it won't
You
work out.
can.
So
But I'll
yeah,
tell you what, um, this noodles or pasta, because really we're just making a very rustic pasta. That's what egg noodles are. Um, they're so forgiving. So if you have a very sticky dough, you could just add in a little bit more flour. If you have a very dry dough, and that happens sometimes because your eggs might be a little small or your flour might be a little dry, especially if you put it in the freezer. A lot of people freeze
yeah.
flour and it makes it drier. So then you just add a little water. It's no big deal. You just keep
And
that nice and
so,
moist.
are we so when we do put this in our well, are we mixing this with a spatula or are we doing this with our hands or how are we
Well, I'll tell you what, it's really preference. I usually start out just with the same fork that I have been using and then move over to a spoon, and then my hands. But you can absolutely, I start in the middle. Like I'm going to show you. I'm going to pour all the eggs. I made a little well in the flour and I pour all the eggs in the middle. And I
got it?
think it's easiest to get it all mixed together if we start in the middle, stirring in right where the eggs are, and then slowly move into the outside, incorporating more and more of that flour. Yeah,
Gotcha.
there you go. Just start to add a little more, add a little more, and then eventually it'll all start getting in there. Yeah, that's good. Stir, 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 stir. And I'll tell you what, yeah, gluten-free flour takes a little bit more moisture to hydrate it than gluten flour does. And sometimes it takes a little bit more time to soak up the moisture because
Gotcha.
most of these mixes have rice flour in them somewhere,
Uh-huh.
and rice takes a while to soak up liquid, especially when it's just dry, like it would be in in a recipe like this where you're using the flour.
So tell
So
me,
mine,
since this doesn't have gluten, and that's usually what we are, you know, worrying about when we're
mhm,
making a dish with gluten is not to build the gluten strands and then make it
mhm.
tough or whatever. Since this doesn't have gluten, do you have the same issues about overworking it? No.
That's the wonderful thing. You could stir this if you decided that you were gonna throw this in a food processor or throw it in your stand mixer or just knead it until your arm fell off. You would never
Uh-huh.
make it tough because there's no gluten and that's what makes it tough. So it will never be tough. You don't have to worry about it.
Good.
Mine, mine is a little bit dry, so I'm gonna add a tablespoon of water to it, and I'm gonna switch to my hands just because that is easier for me. And I think what I'll do also, since I'm switching to my hands, I think I'm going to do it on this board so you guys maybe can see it a little bit better. So I have a little bit of extra gluten-free flour on the side, and I just dusted this surface that I'm working on so
Right.
that hopefully my dough won't stick so much to it. It still might stick, but
Moving
it's not the
over
end of the
small.
world. Yeah. And I just wanted you guys to be able to see it a little bit better. So I'm kneading it, and usually when you read a recipe that's wheat flour and it talks about kneading, usually it says, "We are kneading a dough to develop gluten." That's clearly not
Right.
what we're doing here, right? Like we have
Right.
no gluten, so we won't develop it. But when you knead it, you're agitating it and you are shoving the moisture from the eggs into the flour,
Got it.
and so that gives you a silkier texture because once the moisture soaks into the flour, you no longer get that sort of sandy texture on your tongue. Sometimes gluten
Right.
free, yeah, they get accused of having like a little bit sandy or sharp texture, and that's pieces of rice or pieces of the grains that
Yes.
are not hydrated. So if you just knead it or mix it, agitate it, then you will hydrate it and you won't have that problem. So if it starts
Sally
to
Ekus has joined us. Hey, Sally Ekus. So excited.
hello.
She's going to be at our retreat and
Oh, wow, nice.
one of our honored speakers. Yes,
It's gonna be a really good time. I'm really looking forward
we
to the
are
whole
going to
thing.
have a blast.
Yes,
I had
I
made an
cannot
extra
wait.
budget for alcohol, Rachel. Did I tell you that? Yeah. We are going to have so much fun.
You are
And by
smart.
the way, guys, there's one more seat. I mean, one more bed. So if there's one more person interested, let me know. Okay, so does this look about right to you in texture wise?
Yes, that does look about right to me. What you want is you want it to be smooth. I'm going to walk this a little closer so people can see. You want it to be smooth. It'll be a little bit sticky on the outside, but no stickier than masking tape. It should not stick all over your hands and make you into a dough monster,
Okay.
right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's about how you want it. And if you want to make this ahead, this is a good stopping point. You could wrap it in plastic wrap or pop it into a container that is, airtight and put it in your
Right.
fridge.
Okay.
You want to make sure if you are doing that you do wrap it really tightly because it can dry out on the outside in your refrigerator and get crusty and form a skin, and then that's no
Gotcha.
good. Yeah.
Debbie
But
Well has joined us. Hey, Debbie. So excited to
hello.
get the retreat and so glad you're here today. Yeah, we getting ready to doll up these noodles.
Yeah, we're gonna roll some noodles. So I'm rolling them plain today, but you have a myriad of options as well for adding something beautiful at this point. So if you wanted to, say, make half your noodles a different color by adding in some spinach powder or
Ooh,
beet powder, you could definitely do that. Or you could add little parsley in your dough, whole leaves of parsley once we roll this out, and get some little parsley leaves integrated into the dough, and that would be very pretty.
love it.
Yeah. So I took half, and I am just rolling it with a rolling pin that's lightly dusted in gluten-free flour, and I'm turning it as I go just to make sure that it's not sticking. I don't
Yeah.
want, at all to
All
stick
things,
at the end.
isn't it? Yeah.
And
You
I'm
know,
rolling from the middle out because the ends tend to be the part that gets thinner faster. Oop, if you tear like me, okay, so this is a good, I didn't have enough flour on this. So if you tear like me, one good thing about gluten-free dough is it shows no scars. There's no gluten to snap back. So all you need to do is pat that back in, dust it with a little flour so it'll stop sticking, and go back over, roll over the whole thing, and no one knows what happened. So
yeah, this is very soft.
it
I
is
mean,
very
like,
soft, definitely.
yeah, because like I am where the normal, I guess it's the gluten that would usually hold this together. It's
Yes.
it's comes apart. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So
I
you have a
have a
little
lot of
lighter
trouble.
hand than you would with gluten dough. You definitely want to push forward lightly as opposed to down because it's so soft. It'll just kind of,
Yes.
squash
And
there.
how thick are we doing this, Rachel?
So for an egg noodle, we're going uh 2 to 3 millimeters thick. That's about how thick we're going, which is thick for pasta, right?
Right.
Usually with a Italian style pasta, you break out your pasta machine and you roll it much, much thinner. But this is a more rustic noodle that we're just doing with
Okay.
the rolling pin. So not quite. And, I have a weird shape now. I don't know if you guys can see it. I put that in front. I have a weird shape now, but it doesn't matter at all because this is the point when we cut it. I've got a pizza cutter here, or you could also use a bench scraper. These are great for getting the straight lines. And we're just going to take off the edge. And if you're having somebody who's, you want to impress with your edge, your straight edges, you can definitely cut off all the wonky bits. Now, I just serve this to my family, so I don't really care. Um, but you know,
Okay.
so you can make the
And then
prettiest noodles
cutting
possible.
strips. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we're cutting it in strips. So I'm gonna cut mine in half here and then just come by with the pizza cutter and cut this into the strips. And depending on what you're doing with it, we don't want our noodles too wide for this, but maybe you've got another dish where you really do want a wide noodle, or you want a super thin noodle. The thing you need to remember is when you vary how wide it is, you'll just have to cook it a little bit longer if you have a really wide noodle, and less, for a super thin one. So
Right. Okay.
once you've cut them, you want to dust the whole thing pretty liberally with some gluten-free flour so that they don't stick once we pull them up. And then you could do just as I saw you doing. You got to take your bench scraper, or you can just do it with your hands. I just want to toss it. I want to toss it so that they don't stick together and now make a pile of my
Oh, I see.
noodles.
So I did
Yeah.
mine kind of wide because with the phone tilted, I couldn't see yours. I
Oh,
see.
no
Well,
problem.
you know what? This is more like the shape of my dumplings. This is how I do
Perfect.
my dumplings. So it's just a slight variation.
I think
One,
that sounds great. That sounds wonderful. And some people do completely square dumplings. You
yeah,
can find
I
those, so you could go completely
long
square.
strip, rectangle strips like this because that was
Yes.
how my mother-in-law did them. So
Yes,
that's
that's perfect.
yeah. And then
That's
we'll
what's
drop
great. You can
soup. Is that what we're doing? Or
Yeah, I'm gonna roll the other half and then just drop them all at the same time so they can all cook, at the similar times. Now, actually, I am gonna take these scraps that I took off the other one, because there's no gluten in this, it's not gonna get tough if I re-roll it, so I'm just gonna add it into the rest of my dough
okay,
and use that, because why waste it, right?
gotcha. Okay.
So, I'm going to do the same thing, roll it and turn. And sometimes people find it easier if they're having a hard time with it sticking. You can put some parchment paper underneath and use that to roll
Yeah.
on. That can be
Very
helpful.
done. I want to say thank you for joining us, Anne. Nice to see you. Glad you're here. Welcome.
So many wonderful people joining us. It's exciting.
Yes, we did. This is great.
Yeah,
The middle of the day when so many people have, work or other things going on. So
I
I
know.
really appreciate y'all joining us. And Rachel has been amazing showing us how to make her chicken homemade noodles. This is awesome. I am sorry to say, Bailey and Anne and Sally, you missed the ginger lemon drop, but
It
it was
is.
fine.
I mean, you're gonna have to replay that anyway. I'm gonna have to replay it so I can make it tonight. That's my plan.
Yeah, this is what's left of it, ladies. Yeah, it was terrific.
That's how good it was. Goodness. The perfect thing with a homey dish. All right, I rolled it again the same way I did the first one, and I'm just taking off the edges again, although like I said, for my family, I don't do that at all.
Right.
And we can
And Lynette, welcome, Lynette. Thank you for joining us.
go. And I'm just using this, or
I see
I
you
use
doing
that.
those really thin. Yes, I see that. I wasn't watching that part because I had my phone tilted down, but I see you are doing a much thinner one than I do. Yeah.
There's so many variations on chicken noodle soup
Sure.
around the world.
Huh.
There's, big fat dumplings and tiny thin noodles. I know where my husband's from in Pennsylvania, they do a very clear broth and then the noodles are like angel hair. So there's
Oh,
so many variations all over the
yeah.
place. So
Yeah.
whatever you like, these noodles, I'm cutting them sort of like a thin rustic style, but that doesn't mean they
Yeah.
can't be something else, a different shape. You just have to keep track of how long you've cooked it if you've got a larger or smaller shape. Okay, so
Nan-
this one I did.
I want to say, welcome, Nance. Nance Jacob joined us.
Hello. There we go. All right, so I toss them with the flour, and
Okay.
then I'm gonna throw them all up in the air,
Okay.
give them another toss, even maybe I just don't if I start to see them sticking, I throw a little more flour, and that's really what thickens the dish too, because there's a lot of flour on all these noodles, so it
Right.
really thickens this dish at the end as it simmers.
Yeah.
So
And I usually don't do that with my dumplings. I usually do a few at a time and I dredge them and then I put them in but it's more about the cut that I'm doing versus what you're doing, like the thinner
right.
one. So I tossed all of my larger ones. I'm just putting them in here so I can put them all
Perfect.
together.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. And That is a good note that if you let's say you made this part of the dish over here ahead, or you had leftovers and you hadn't added the noodles in, um, if you want the noodles if you want it to be more soupy, you should probably add the noodles in the day you're eating it. If you don't mind it soaking up some of the broth and getting thicker, then you can let it sit in the fridge as leftovers.
Yeah, and I love that gravy that it makes with that extra,
Yes,
you know.
it's definitely like a homey grandma situation, and I think as you go into fall, we all crave a little bit more of that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my
What
gosh, I cannot wait for fall. Yes, cannot wait.
How when does it cool off in Louisiana? I'm not even sure I know.
Okay, there's 3 days in January. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Yeah. We literally, if you wanna get married in Louisiana, you have approximately about a 2 window somewhere between March and April and a 2-week window in October, and that's it.
Oh my goodness.
And Lynn is asking, at what point would you freeze them? Now, Lynn, are you talking about just the noodles or are you talking about the whole?
Good question. Either way, I would freeze the noodles separately. You could freeze just a lot of the noodles and use them for different dishes, and I would freeze them just as we had here's the scraps, right? Just like this, so we had the piles uncooked. I would spread those out on a sheet pan, make sure they're well coated in flour, throw them in the freezer, and then you can put them in another container, a Ziploc bag or something,
Right.
maybe in portions. And then the soupy part, I would freeze that separately. That way, the noodles don't soak up all the liquid and maybe start to break down because they do cook very quickly. I did notice somehow in my copying and pasting my recipe to you from my site to yours, unfortunately, there was a slight typo that happened. And I looked at it, I was like, oh no. So these cook in about 3 to 5 minutes, not 13 to 15. So they're going to cook really fast.
Okay.
And, the noodles will be ready to go very, very quickly. And if you want it thicker, I like it a little thicker, then you just turn that off and let it sit, and then the whole thing will thicken up a little bit. So mine are already really starting to cook through. And I'll pull a noodle out, a funky noodle shape. You can already see this is hot and starting to cook.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, you're I was because of the angle of the phone and whatnot, I couldn't really see exactly how you were doing, and I'm not very good with, metric measures, so
No problem at all. You can make them really what size you want. I threw some peas in at the end. I like the sweetness. I like a little color. You could just throw a handful of parsley or whatever you like in. Yeah.
yeah, I have a little bit of, some pork just frozen peas from
Yeah.
Whole Foods, and I'm gonna throw a little bit of that in there too. And then, so your things would cook. Now mine are a little thicker. I usually, when I do dumplings, this is probably a process, cook for maybe 10 minutes or something. So I'm
Mhm.
thinking that's about how thick I did these. And
Mhm.
then you eat.
I just tasted mine that I pulled out. It wasn't quite cooked through, but it was almost. It was like the point where it had gotten a little bit hard and I just wanted to soften up a little bit. So I think it's perfect that now thrown in the peas and it's simmering, and yours might take just a few minutes longer because they're bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rob has
And
joined. Thanks for joining with us
hello.
right here at the end, but so glad you got to come in.
Yeah.
Um, so I just want to say, Rachel, first of all, thank you so much, honey. This was so
Thanks for
much
having
fun.
me. Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
fun and just so much to learn. I mean, like, I've made a dish similar, dumplings, for years and years. My husband's very favorite that is made. But this, you added some twists and some things I didn't know about, which was super interesting, and I love this. I also want to say, as I always do at the end of this, it's kind of like watching Mr. Rogers. Um, I I just want to say thank you so much to all of you who come and do this with
Yeah.
us because we are building a community and I love every one of y'all. So thank you for coming, for being a part of this, for being part of the tribe, for all of those that are able to go to the retreat. I'm so excited and can't wait to meet
Yay.
y'all in March. Yeah, and there is one bed left if anybody is interested. Otherwise, we are booked. So, um, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And next time around on, let's see, September 26th, I have Kaylee Tilley from Table Root Farm that will be joining me on SKL. And then for October, that will be Cheryl O'Connell and Douglas from Inspired by Mexico. So thank you so much. And Miss Lolly caught us at the end. Hey, by golly, it's Miss Lolly.
Hello in Italy.
Yeah. Thank y'all so appreciate y'all being
Thank
here and
you.
see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
So
Rachel.
fun.